It's breached the 72 mark against the dollar. Indian exporters are set to benefit from this unprecedented fall in the rupee value. One of the country's largest cotton exporters is Welspun India and gets a substantial chunk of its revenue from the US. Yatin Mota from our research team caught up with Welspun India's CEO Altaf Jiwani and started off by asking him if the fall in rupee is sweet news to him.
Yes, this sharp depreciation, which is actually completely unexpected. But let me tell you that most like India already has a strong competitive advantage in terms of home textile. So while rupee has depreciated, but at the same time cotton also has actually moved up from 40,000 rupees per candy to 48,000 rupees per candy. So part of the rupee depreciation actually gets eaten away by the impact of the raw material cost, which has gone up by almost 20%. So honestly, this is a situation which has moved very sharply, but there are a lot of input costs which are linked to crude as well as linked to exchange rate, which have moved substantially in the last 6 months.
Okay, so the benefit would be limited is what you're trying to say at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So that apart, how are the export markets looking? We have seen India clearly has a competitive advantage, but how are you looking at competition shaping up for the export markets? So do you think China has been losing out, or the cost of production as China has moved up, and probably that puts companies from India in a sweet spot, especially in the home textile segment for the US markets?
So US, which is the largest market actually in the world for, if you see cotton home textile, the total exports of towels from India is about 40%, and for bedsheet it is almost 50%. So we have all the Indian players have gained prominence actually in the US market over the last 6-7 years. And as I mentioned, one of the biggest factor was when India became the largest producer of cotton in the world. The second biggest cost is the labor cost, which is also 1/3 of that in China. And third is the government policies, which are very conducive, and because there's a strong interdependence between the farmers and the industry. And fourth is of course a lot of Indian players, the compliances and environment norms, these were always on the radar. So for the retailers, it was not just what you make, but how you make became equally important. And the Indian companies were ready for that shift, which happened practically overnight. So we have been able to compete very effectively vis-a-vis Chinese when it comes to cotton home textile. When it comes to man-made fiber, of course, Chinese players are much stronger. So this is one industry which has been competitive on its own, and it's the currency movement do not really influence decisions from shift from one country to other country, unless there is a sustainable competitive advantage for those countries, which clearly in case of home textile, India has a substantial competitive advantage.
Okay. Sir, also in terms of the export market, since we have seen Europe and US growth pick up substantially, how is the demand looking? And also if you could tell us what are the new products, or if you could share the product pipeline as to how things are shaping up for Welspun India.
So in terms of demand, we are seeing a substantial growth in US. Last year we saw a trend of destocking which happened, which is practically now behind us. So we are seeing a kind of pent-up demand which is coming up, and also we have given a guidance of about 8 to 10% volume growth for the current financial year. So we are practically back to the double-digit trajectory, which we have seen almost for last 6 years, except for the last year, and we are seeing a kind of thrust, a pull factor coming from particularly from the retailers whom we are supplying to. So there is a substantial pull factor which is coming in, and which will be reflected, which was reflective in the first quarter results, and we are seeing even Q2 the volume growth we are seeing, which is a very substantial growth.
Sir, but is this volume growth largely to do with the traditional business you have been doing with, or are there any new products that you have been introducing because of which there is again some contribution to the volume growth for you?
So our innovative product line, which is one of the most commercially successful product, has been high-grow cotton. So we continue to see a growth which is happening in high-grow cotton, and recently we launched this Weltrack products actually. So this is a traceability solution for which we have got patent in the US market, and we have launched this product which are now available on the shelf. So we believe that what has happened with Hygro Cotton when we launched in 2015, we are seeing a promising future for Weltrack now going forward. So this is a innovation which we have started branding as Weltrack, and we expect kind of a pull factor coming from this, because in US the millennials are looking for products which can assure them a traceable solution. They are looking for, and this solution which we started with one fiber can be applied across all the fibers. So we are seeing a kind of growth. Also we have developed a few products for the say online marketplaces, and we have been working with one of the biggest online players. Those products also will be available very soon on their site.
Okay. So, sir, net
so we expect that our revenue coming out of innovative products will continue to grow.
Okay. Sir, I was just coming to that online sales bit. If you could tell us on the distribution front and on the online sales channel, how really is the company looking to improve its presence in the US market as well as for the domestic market?
So our actually online strategy is two-pronged. One is, we have got the answer from Christie, which is the world's oldest home textile brand. It's 100 years plus old. And we are seeing the total sale from on the online channel for Christie is about 10%. So that's a substantial growth we are seeing, and that's the power of branding. So the other strategy is actually to influence the online player to come out with their own private label.
Okay.
So that brings the whole equation in favor of large players like us. So with this two-pronged strategy, we believe we have got probably a winning concoction to build to push our own brand as well as get the online players to have their own private label. So overall, we are seeing, while we have tied up with the online retailers in US, we also have tied up with the retailers' own website. So when they receive orders from their customer, they offload it to us, and we do drop shipment on their behalf seamlessly.
Okay.
And we also have our own website where customers can buy the products.
Sure.
So we see substantial growth coming out of the e-commerce space going forward.
Sure. Sir, one bit was that you had a very strong growth trajectory for the US market, but there was some roadblock or some hurdle in terms of your relationship with the organized retailers there, especially like, Target and Walmart. So how really is the company looking to revive those relationship backs and, restart supplies to all of these, organized retail giants in the US markets?
See, we have absolutely, Walmart is one of these biggest customers for us. So there is absolutely no issue as, with the retailers. And we are hopeful that with this Weltrack solution which we have come up with on the traceability, we'll be able to serve other retailer as well. Okay,
so you will be resuming a portion of the supplies to customers which probably had some issue earlier on with you. So you are, probably looking at restarting supplies to those customers which you had some relationship in the past.
Yeah, it's very difficult to put the timeline, but we are hopeful and we are confident that it will happen.
Okay, and sir, one final word on the capex plan in the domestic market, and also how really is the Anjar unit doing? If you could give us some capacity utilization numbers which you can share.
So our capacity utilization is about 80%, which was for the last year, and we have headroom for both towel, bedsheet as well as rugs.
Okay.
And as we speak, we are seeing the capacity utilization figures have gone up from those numbers. So we announce every year the utilization. We don't do quarterly figures. And as far as investments is concerned, this year we'll be investing about 900 crores in the capex. Major portion of that will be actually towards the new project which we are putting up in Telangana for Welspun flooring.
Okay.
So this is a new product line which we are getting into, which is wall-to-wall carpet as well as carpet tiles. So in India, all these products are actually imported from Turkey, China, Belgium, USA.
Okay.
So this will be the first project of its own kind in the country.
Okay.
And at the peak, revenue will be total project cost about 1100 crores. Out of that, 900 will be invested during this year, including some of the routine capex. And at peak capacity, we would be having a turnover of almost about 1800 crores.